other wives who helped pay off around $30,000 of it. And despite that sacrifice, she never seemed particularly grateful. Then there was the baptism scene. One viewer had to stop watching right then, just couldn't stomach the idea of Kody being involved in something so sacred when he showed so little interest in his other children. The favoritism was glaring. He doted on Robyn's kids, yet barely acknowledged his others. It was upsetting for a lot of people to witness, especially considering how invisible his original children seem to have become. We've got so much to dive into today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Some people thought the whole storyline about spiritual renewal was just filler, something thrown together in the aftermath of Garrison's death because they didn't want to talk about him directly if the producers couldn't address that loss. Some felt the show should have at least focused on rebuilding real family bonds rather than giving us a shiny, meaningless distraction. It was frustrating to watch those segments eat up valuable screen time, especially when there were real stories that could have been told. The discomfort didn't stop there. Robyn and Kody's body language during some scenes, especially when they tried to explain, justify things, rubbed people the wrong way. There was one moment where Robyn referred to the early years as though they began when she joined the family, completely disregarding the decades before her. That kind of revisionist storytelling felt disingenuous. Some pointed out that Robyn and Kody seemed to believe the family, or even the show itself, wouldn't exist without her, that because the idea adding a fourth wife was the hook for the show, the money was somehow more hers than anyone else's. Sure, it's true that the pitch only gained traction when new wife was involved, but many reminded others that the other women gave the show its emotional core. They opened up their homes, shared their struggles, and welcomed audiences into their lives. Robyn, in contrast, stayed more guarded, often judging rather than sharing. Another layer of frustration came with the financial dynamics. Kody apparently tried to get Janelle to buy Christine's house, but only if she used her own money, not out of fairness, but because he wanted to keep the house in the family, and some speculated he wanted Christine to sell it below market value, manipulating the situation to benefit himself. Others remembered Christine saying she'd offered Janelle a good price, which was a kind and honest gesture, but once Kody got involved, it felt like it became about control and ownership again. Robyn, too, seemed to twist details to fit a convenient narrative. At one point, she claimed she'd never been in a bar, but clearly recalled footage of her and Kody in one. Even when she was telling the truth, it often felt like she was leaning hard on technicalities, careful wording that avoided outright lies but still dodged accountability. One moment that stood out in a different way was Janelle trying her shot of alcohol. She chose a buttery nipple light and sweet, thanks to a walk-off when a question gets too hard, only to return when she's ready to speak again on her terms. What stings the most is the lack of fairness. The other women get asked tough emotional questions, are shown clips meant to stir things up. Kody and Robyn, on the other hand, are coddled. Robyn gets to excuse herself when uncomfortable, and Kody is never truly challenged. The financial aspect also keeps coming up, how Robyn and Kody seem to be holding on to shared property and money while asking to be let alone, and yet it's hard to ignore that so much of their current situation was built off the backs of the other wives who now seem shut out. There's a clear sense that people are no longer buying into the facade. The tell-alls feel like anything but they're carefully curated, crafted to keep viewers angry enough to return, but without ever really offering accountability or closure. In the end, people are watching not because they expect truth, but because they're fascinated by the unraveling, the spin, the evasion, the rehearsed lines. They're all part of a show where, ironically, less that's said, the more that's revealed. It started with a clip, Robyn, an upcoming tell-all, saying she wishes the other wives would stop mentioning her and just focus on their own relationships. On the surface, it might seem like a simple plea for privacy or respect, but for many, that one comment hit a nerve, sparking a wave of reactions that pointed to a much deeper story. Over the past several seasons, Robyn has built much of her presence by talking about the other wives, about Mary's struggles with Kody, about Christine's decision to leave, about the tension between Janelle, Kody. Her conversations, both with Kody and on camera, often revolved around the other women and their relationships. So when she said she wanted to be left out of their narratives, many felt it was strikingly hypocritical. Some felt Robyn's words weren't just ironic, they were a deflection, pointed out that she didn't deny anything said about her, she just didn't want it said aloud. That to them spoke volumes. For years, it seemed like original three wives, Christine, Janelle, and Mary, had to walk on eggshells. It came to talking about Robyn. Any perceived criticism, it was believed, would provoke backlash, particularly from Kody. Now, with those women stepping away and finding their own voices, the dynamic has shifted. Robyn, once central to the family's inner workings, no longer has the same influence. And it shows. People noticed how Robyn had often positioned herself as both the empath who understood everyone's emotions and the passive observer, too shy and gentle to engage in conflict. This dual role allowed her to operate behind the scenes while appearing above the fray. But as the others speak more freely, the inconsistencies in her behavior becoming harder to ignore. Mary's realization, for example, has resonated with many. Despite Robyn's past gestures of sisterly affection, Mary felt abandoned, especially during pivotal moments like the death of her mother. Similarly, comments from Mykelti and others revealed a pattern. Relationships with Robyn were one-sided, with little effort coming from her. There's also a broader sense that Robyn and Kody have insulated themselves from blame. While they assure themselves they're not responsible for the family's unraveling, they continue to point fingers at the OG wives. Robyn's discomfort seems to lie not just in being mentioned, but in the possibility that the others might start comparing notes, bringing to light things that were never aired, truths that might challenge the narrative Robyn has carefully maintained. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. She's on a reality show, one literally centered on family dynamics, and yet she wants to control what gets discussed. That many felt stripped away any illusion of sincerity. In the end, it's not just about Robyn asking for her name to be left out. It's about the growing awareness among the other wives, the shift power dynamics, and the unraveling of carefully constructed roles. The family is no longer operating under the old rules. OG3 are telling their stories now. They don't seem interested in protecting a narrative that never protected them. It's a conversation about accountability, about truth-telling, and about what happens when people who have felt silenced finally get the chance to speak. Whether Robyn likes it or not, her name will come up, not out of spite, but because it's part of the story. So the whole situation with the nanny and the coronavirus rules was always kind of head-scratcher. Kody and Robyn had these incredibly strict protocols, rules that made it nearly impossible for the rest of the family to spend time together. Family members were told to isolate, avoid unnecessary contact, and follow what seemed like extreme precautions. And yet, despite all that, they brought Nanny into their home, a nanny who, unlike family members, was not part of their household bubble. She went home every night to her own family, people no one could really account for when it came to health safety. What made it even stranger was that both Kody and Robyn full-time during this period. There were only 2 young kids in the house, and several teenagers too, so naturally, people were left wondering why the nanny, what was she actually doing there, especially when other parts of the family like Mary, who lived alone, were completely cut off. Under the guise of these same protocols, it looked like an excuse to exclude people rather than protect anyone. Some people suspected that Robyn and Kody weren't being entirely honest about how they got coronavirus. They said Brianna brought it home from school, but others speculated that it might have been Kody, especially considering how often he was seen out and about without a mask. Either way, the timing raised eyebrows, and then there was Kody lying on the floor, lamenting being separated from Aurora for 10 days with what he described as 99 fever. The dramatics were hard to forget. The bigger question that kept coming up was, what did the nanny actually do? Viewers recalled Christine's iconic moment of asking that very question, and Gabe and Garrison confronting their father for the clear double standards. Some suggested the nanny helped with tutoring during online school. Others thought maybe she cooked, cleaned, or did more general household help, but all under the title of nanny. Still in a house with 2 stay-at-home parents and multiple teenagers, it just didn't seem to add up. There were also comparisons to other families' households, including some with working parents or single moms who managed everything on their own without help. So when Robyn, who didn't have a job outside the home, insisted on needing extra hands, it rubbed people the wrong way. Some even thought it was less about help and more about indulgence, time for shopping, collecting, or simply avoiding the parts of parenting that weren't fun. Others recalled Robyn justifying the nanny earlier seasons, saying she needed support when Kody was away visiting the other wives. But during coronavirus, Kody wasn't going anywhere. He was at Robyn's house all the time. That excuse, like many of their explanations, didn't seem to hold water anymore. To make it more frustrating, Robyn and Kody used those same strict rules to keep themselves isolated from the rest of the family. But the moment it came to someone outside their inner circle, a hired caregiver, less, they made an exception. That kind of selective enforcement made a lot of people feel that the rules weren't really about safety but about control and exclusion. A few people did defend the strict rules themselves, saying early coronavirus was terrifying and precautions were valid, but even they admitted Kody's behavior didn't line up with what he preached. His household brought in someone from outside, but wouldn't let vaccinated family members visit. It all seemed inconsistent. In the end, the consensus seemed to be that the rules weren't really about coronavirus. They were about keeping Robyn and her children separate from the rest of the family. Whether or not the nanny gave them coronavirus became secondary to the larger pattern, Kody choosing Robyn's household over the rest, bending the rules when it suited them, and shutting others out without a second thought. While the nanny may not have been the one who directly spread coronavirus, her presence was symbolic of deeper issues: trust, favoritism, and the breakdown of the larger family dynamic. It wasn't just about health, it was about priorities, and who got to be part of the inner circle when it really mattered. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and much love to you.